Hey guys, I know you missed hearing my droning voice. Today we're going to start with 2.6, proving angles congruent. So we're just going to go over a few more justifications that we will need to make our proofs, all right? So they're going to give you an action, right? And you're going to need to come up with a reason for that action. So the first thing we want to talk about is a theorem. And a theorem is a conjecture. Remember, that's when we've observed something and we make a statement. Or a statement that you have to prove true. Okay, so we're going to go over some of these. But don't forget, before we move into theorems, that a postulate is accepted as a fact. So you're going to hear theorems and postulates. Theorems, we need to prove. Postulates, we can accept as fact. All right, so moving forward, the first thing we want to talk about is the vertical angles theorem, Theorem 2.1. I just want you in a proof to write vertical angles. That will work. If two angles are vertical, then they are congruent. Okay, remember, if two angles are vertical, then they're congruent. We call these the kissing angles. Don't forget, we call these kissing angles. And that helps some of you guys be able to recognize them. Kissing angles. So let's look at this diagram right here, and you'll notice that angles 1 and angle 3, they're vertical angles. Because of that, they are congruent. So notice how they're kissing right here. It's almost like their two little bird beaks are kissing. They're directly across from each other. They have this common vertex, and they are congruent. Kissing angles. And I know it's a little hard to read in that green color I wrote, but angles 2 and angles 4 are also congruent because they are vertical angles. All right, and then we move down to congruent supplements, and this is a little bit different, something that we haven't talked about yet. Congruent supplements theorem, Theorem 2.2. If two angles are supplements of the same angle, then the two angles are congruent. So let's look at this little diagram I drew you. All right, going to see if we can get it all here. All right, if angle 1 and angle 3 are supplements, meaning they add to 180, and angle 2 and angle 3 are supplements, angle 2 and angle 3, then we can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So if two angles are supplements to the same angle, then the two angles are congruent. So both angles 1 and 2 are supplementary to angle 3, meaning that angles 1 and 2 are congruent. Congruent supplements theorem. Okay, so we're going to talk about the congruent complements theorem. The same type of idea. If two angles are complements to the same angle, then the two angles are congruent. And remember, complements adds to 90 degrees. So if angles 1 and angle 2 here are complements, and angles 3 and angle 2 are complements, then we can go ahead and say that angle 1 and angle 3, they're congruent to each other. That is the congruent complements theorem. Again, you can just write congruent complements. You don't need to write Theorem 2.3. That makes it harder to memorize, Theorem 2.3, than rather saying congruent complements. All right, and probably the most straightforward one we're going to talk about, the right angle, not sure where I got the try part, angle theorem. All right angles are congruent. Angles. I use purple instead of blue. All right angles are congruent, right? They're all equal to 90 degrees and represented with the little square in the corner. Okay. Theorem 2.5, the last theorem. If two angles are congruent and supplementary, then each angle is a right angle. So if they're congruent and they're supplementary, remember they add to 180, then each angle is a right angle, right? Because 90 degrees and 90 degrees, well, 90 plus 90 equals 180. So they are congruent and supplementary. And that's your video for today. Yay! See you guys later. Bye.